Let's take into account what we already know. We know that Xbox teased this particular image that showed a library of some sort with Steam involved in it. We also have heard rumors, and we don't know per se exactly what this is, that by the end of the year, there's going to be an Xbox branded hardware piece, a handheld, that is going to be manufactured by an OEM manufacturer. Now, when you kind of put this together, what you're going to see is this OEM hardware piece is more than likely going to have a Windows layer to it and grant anybody that actually has this particular piece of Xbox hardware to play games that are not available on the Xbox console. The branding, in my opinion, I think is a lot more friendly to those who may be, in a sense, more loyal to Xbox. Say, for instance, they don't want to get a gaming PC. They don't care what a Steam Deck is. They don't know anything about that particular ecosystem. They can look and say that's an Xbox handheld, and it plays the PC games and it plays some other titles, and I can also play some of my games that I already bought an Xbox on it. Sign me up. What this does is this already inadvertently opens up a back door to the Xbox gamer that wants to basically, in a sense, expand past their regular box or at least carry this particular piece of hardware around to go ahead and take the initiative to start exploring games, that are all over the place and maybe taking their games everywhere as an incentive for them, taking their Xbox games. Many of us know how the Steam Deck works, and sometimes, you got to kind of admit that the Steam Deck is designed for Steam. If you want anything else, yes, you can go in there and you can pretty much go ahead and, install Windows on there. I've seen some PlayStation fans start, to bring up this conversation. Oh, there's a likelihood that PlayStation is going to block its games from being able to be played on Xbox devices because GeForce Now and all of the above. But let me go ahead and present something to you because, again, this is coming from that, perspective where I think some people are, I don't know, misunderstood as to how all this has been working lately. You can say a lot of things about what the gaming scene is looking like right now, but one thing you just cannot necessarily go out and throw there is to think that anybody who would have basically made the effort to bring their games to PC is, in a sense, going to pick and choose sales in this particular market that we're in. Let's say, for instance, this particular blockage can happen, which it can't, because I don't know if you guys know, the moment you install Windows on a computer, that computer basically has a Windows identity. Steam is not going to waste any time trying to block that PC because in their minds, all they do know is that they have the ID of that desktop that's basically accessing Steam. That's it. They won't know if it's necessarily a, rogue ally or whatever it is, unless, of course, you give them the, ability to be able to go ahead and do a hardware check. The way they do the Steam hardware survey, they basically run a script on your PC, but with your consent, by the way, so that you can basically inform them what your hardware is made of. If your hardware is not telling them anything, I don't think they actually have the, the authority to go in and basically check your hardware. So it's not going to happen. But I wanted to go ahead and show this particular example. So let's say, for instance, PlayStation, which has been sending its games to Steam to go ahead and print money, right? Let's say they were sending these games to Steam. They find out that Xbox has already found a back door to go around and get into Steam. And then they're like, you know what? We're not going to send our games to Steam anymore because now Xbox is getting access to our games. The alternative for them, that's PlayStation, will be to basically relegate their game to the PlayStation console. This particular idea, right, has not worked out. It hasn't necessarily paid off for them. So they will literally have to regress to make that happen in a financial sense. Simply because when we look at the last few years of exclusivity on the PlayStation platform, it has actually been abysmal, especially when you go ahead and, factor in the number of PlayStation consoles that can actually access these particular games. You'll realize that, oh wow, Final Fantasy and these other games that were even locked third-party exclusives, their sales were horrendous. I mean, talk about Forspoken, talk about Final Fantasy 16, talk about, Stellar Blade and Rise of the Ronin. Those games already ate dirt when it came to, possible sales, compared to maybe like Capcom, who's also a Japanese developer and publisher, who's basically making waves on their multi-plat strategy, including PC being basically their biggest bread and butter. But when you look at a game like, say, Spider-Man 2, right? Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a very expensive game, expensive to produce and develop, expensive to maintain, in the sense that they have to be giving, a cut to Disney, or I guess Marvel, depending on what technicality you want to go ahead and use. And so when you think about it, they'll have to go ahead and now sit with their own games on their own platform. And one reason I am telling you this is because their financials really did show something that I thought was very interesting. It really did, it really did expose a talking point that a lot of folk don't want to go ahead and address. And this particular talking point is the fact that PlayStation first party sales are not strong when you actually compare them to other, titles that are on their platform. In fact, when everything was being pointed out, 75 million consoles sold, software from other, platforms sold, making all this money and blah, blah, blah. One metric that really did kind of get me scratching my head was that first party titles were down by 4.6 million units compared to 16.2 million units sold during the same period the previous fiscal quarter, which was a fiscal period that was made up of the launch of Spider-Man 2. And so if we continue to see these kinds of launches, I don't know if PlayStation is going to have the comfort level to even afford to not pretend that, Xbox, hardware is accessing their games. In fact, I think that somewhere secretly, they're probably welcoming it, because if this is a license for them to print money and Xbox provides a layer or a way for an Xbox device, and this is not even a console, this is based on the handheld or whatever it is, to be able to access the games, they understand that there's money that could be made and lost. So if they decide, oh, we don't want to bring our future games to this particular platform, they're going to be locked in with the PlayStation players who have not necessarily proven to be capable of buying a lot of their games. In fact, I think what they're going to see is a potential benefit for Xbox gamers who probably want to go ahead and buy those games and see how they basically go ahead and expand many of those PlayStation titles that are on Steam day and date, which are the live service games. You see, right now, PlayStation is in a very strange place. Many of their live service games, they've announced them, and we're not really certain what all the intricacies will look like. But if you think about, say, potentially a game like, Fair Games. Fair Games right now, I don't know what the status is. I don't know what the community is going to pretty much go ahead and do with that game finally when it comes out. But that game is going to have to deal with the top 15, right? You know the top 15, right? The top 15 is GTA, Fortnite, Call of Duty, 2K25 Rivals, some days Destiny, some days WWE, 2K24, 25, or whatever it is, EA College Football, whichever one comes out, maybe the next one, they're already probably working on it because it was the highest selling game last year, and all these other titles. So in my mind, all I see is PlayStation games like Helldivers 2 that's already enjoying the PC attention, pretty much keeping it in the top 10 every single week from what I've been seeing since it came out, right? I think that would probably benefit their live service games if they don't bring them to Xbox, and say an Xbox, gamer wants to access that game, they can use this device of theirs to go ahead and access the game. This is a benefit for PlayStation at the end of the day. Because again, they may, and I've said this before, they may cosplay exclusivity like, oh, it's something that really does give them like, the extra street cred or whatever it is. But the bank account shows that this is not really a value proposition that they can basically chase and keep sustainable. Because if they try to block those games, right, you could talk all you want about blocking those games, right? But here's the thing. Their financial statements already say that they could use some extra dollars from their own software sales. And you know what's even crazy with these financial statements that I just showed you guys? The reason that these financials were even at this point, according to Daniel Ahmad, Juge EX on Twitter, who looked through a lot of their financial data, he said that the reason you even saw this number where it is simply because of held average 2 sales. That's the game that literally did carry the software sales, a game that was multi-plat. So I don't think PlayStation is in the position where it can actually, front that it doesn't want gamers. Instead, it will silently take that money and act like, nothing is going on, because it could use that money. It could use those software sales. It's a very interesting place because they're in between. And, exclusivity is really not that important at the end of the day, but PlayStation has to position itself and posture like exclusivity is important for them. It really isn't. The moment they put their games on PC, they literally opened up Pandora's box, right? Because this is no longer the case where people are trying to emulate Bloodborne or whatever it is. It's just a case where people are just sitting and just waiting for the game to hit $10, or maybe they put it on Good Old Games if they want to. If not, it's okay. People can buy it on Steam, if you get what I mean. So it's a very interesting place to see how this hardware change, even without even talking about the console side. Like, I've not even gotten there yet. And I'm not even interested in talking about that particular parameter yet. You can already see that it really does change the game. We'll keep an eye out. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you all so much. Peace out.